And there's some tools here, you can raise your hand, you can do something like that. Certainly use the chat stream here. I found that very useful in Zoom, just to share some Zoom best practices. Obviously, you can chat to everybody, which is nice, and then we as the speakers can kind of see that or help each other see that and facilitate a bit. Feel free to chat to each other, but I've found when I do that in Zooms, I tend to get lost in a separate string of conversation that, maybe is I normally say, this is awesome, but I'm getting totally distracted and we'll talk later. But any other ways of just being able to get comfortable with this? It's been, 5 months now, so we all have some degree of comfort. And those that just joined, Ken and I were just chatting about some new ways that software developers are trying to make this a little more comfortable, or as we evolve into what this should look like. Has anyone used Teams and seen their new, what is that mode called? Together mode? Is that what it is?
Yeah, together mode.
Yeah. Where you're all placed in the bleachers kind of a thing. And when I first saw it, I thought that was absolutely ridiculous until I realized that I tried it a little bit and I thought, well, if I was teaching a class and it was a lecture class, it might actually be more familiar than trying to look at the Brady Bunch screen,
Yeah.
And it's distracting when you first see it because it's novel, but when you start to get used to it and connecting your brain, I think there's some psychology that those software developers are into. And Ken, you want to share the screen and show that table setup that you were talking about?
Which was the Remo, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just pull that up.
We use it to do a group picture, that feature in Teams. Like we just had our company outing meeting that's virtual, so we use that team function to get everybody on a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot easier to do than in person, right?
Yes, much faster too.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've never actually used this, but I think that little diagrams here show fairly effectively the basic concept. So I think for social networking, where you're kind of trying to connect with a bunch of different people and kind of working the room, I think they'd come up with this concept that you could physically represent space and then kind of move yourself around. I'm not sure what other information they have that helps you understand who you're connecting with. But anyway, I thought it was kind of a fun concept. And actually, someone on our team had come up with exactly this concept. So I was very disappointed when we saw this come out. It's like, damn it, I already took that idea. But yeah, it's it's this funny time now where I think a lot of the very kind of pragmatic things are covered, but a lot of these kind of social interactions, where that's kind of the informal kind of connections. But we can talk more about some of those challenges, and that's kind of the topic for today's discussion. So
right, and actually it's a good segue, Ken, too, as I've told others that you're the new chair and you're talking about the work that you do at Sasaki. Maybe this is a good time to talk about that role. And,
sure.
And when you said somebody you work with had the idea, why would they even be thinking of it? Might be the curiosity there. So why don't you try to put that into context?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, my background is as my undergrad was in architectural studies. Then I kind of studied city planning at MIT, but with a focus on design technology. So that's always going to be my focus. Unfortunately, I kind of predate, certainly for my undergrad, the real concept of design technologies. So I was kind of trying to forge ahead with that before it was really a thing. Which made life interesting both in undergrad and then at MIT. There were a lot of kind of fun things happening at the media lab that I was kind of tapped into. But officially trained as a planner, and then over the past almost 20 years now at Sasaki, I've kind of been trying to push forward design technologies. So we started a group called Sasaki Strategies, and yeah, so our focus is on finding ways to kind of fill those gaps between what the big companies like Autodesk and Adobe are doing, and the way that our designers want to work in ways that may be a little bit more nuanced or kind of less mainstream, and so sometimes we come in with custom tools for that, or we have ideas for kind of engagements and different ways of collaborating. And so, yeah, we're always thinking, to Mike's point, about, how we can kind of be improving things with kind of small innovations around with technologies. We have a handful of kind of products which are things that are repeatable, and then also things that are kind of custom that we're building out specific to projects or specific to particular use cases.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so also as part of that, kind of trying to solve this problem of how we kind of design smarter and kind of bring analysis into the kind of the earlier phases of design, and also using different visualization technologies, particularly like VR and AR, and how we can really use that not just as a way to kind of showcase design, but to be improving design through really being able to understand early in the process what it is we're actually dealing with, and having more effective ways of communicating that to clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why when this opportunity kind of arose, I was really excited. After Mike made it clear to me that this wasn't, just kind of renderings and kind of, pretty pictures kind of coming out of design, which is sometimes the interpretation of design is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of all encompassing in terms of like really using these design visualization techniques as a way to kind of elevate design thinking and really improve design. So yeah, it's very exciting to be co-chairing this group with Mike.
Yeah, and it's great because what we started talking about, I remember we were sitting in the bar across from the BSA. What's that called in the corner?
I remember bars. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember that? Remember those days? Was it Smith and Walensky's? Is that the place there in the corner?
Yeah.
I don't
And
remember.
and just when I'm just laying out what Nikki and I have been doing and thinking about, and what Peter is also kind of contributing as this kind of evolves. And then you were saying, oh, that sounds really interesting. And then as soon as we started collaborating, it's evolving yet again. It's just visual communication in design is just absolutely crucial, and it's an evolving thing through technology almost. Every week it seems different. So there's kind of age-old things that will always be with us, and there's brand new things. So I think there'll just be a never-ending source of things to talk about in this group and to work on in this group. Yeah. I want to just share a PowerPoint just to give us some kind of agenda and time-wise, because I know we only have an hour planned for this. We're going to do 90 minutes, and really plan the heck out of this, and determine that for this first meetup in a long while, we just wanted to see who we could kind of draw in, old faces, new faces, talk about some of the things that we want to tackle, get some juices flowing, and then follow up next month with a really in-depth meeting that we'll talk to you about, we'll tease you about later. But then at 6 o'clock, we have an actual breakout room for something that's ongoing with the group, which is related to City Print. And maybe I'll ask Philippe in a little bit to talk about that specifically. It's our collaboration between Make Tank and the Design Viz group. But let me just lay that out in a sort of old-fashioned tool now, which is PowerPoint. And I'll share this in 3, 2, 1. So if you're seeing what I hope you're seeing, and well, I'm not seeing anything, but you see a PowerPoint, yes?
Yep.
Okay, good. And I'm seeing everybody on the side here, and I'm probably not looking at you. Yeah, so I just put a few slides together just to show you it's not an extensive slide deck or anything, but I did want to show, at least for the recording, for those that are seeing this later, just what we are talking about today, and you know it, and here it is. I just want to ask the email that went out to everybody, how many of you pressed that button that looked like a button? Yeah, I thought so. And when it came in, I thought, I wonder if people are doing this. And I thought, what if I do it? And then it took me right to the link, which I thought was really cool. But it is interesting how that icon of play is so attractive, I guess, right? So here is the agenda for a very quick meeting. The welcome and kind of getting into the room is a little slow since we don't have everybody that we're waiting for. We're gonna dive right into it though. And then in about just a few minutes, we're going to talk introductions, really those in the room. And I'm glad in some ways that it's a small group that we can talk about not only the introductions, but what we'll talk about in a second. And then at 5:30, we'll get into this discussion of a virtual whiteboard. That's essentially the one tool we want to highlight of all the tools. And then about 5:40 or so, we want to use that tool in a roundtable discussion. So I want to hear from all of you. This isn't me and Ken kind of lecturing. This is more just us all collaborating in a roundtable. And then at 6 o'clock, we will do a City Print breakout. Others will be joining at that point for the breakout. If you all want to stay for that, you're invited to do that. You know, we have maybe a limit of Zoom fatigue after an hour anyways. So this will be a test on what that's like. So there's the schedule. If you want to do a screenshot or something, you have that to guide you. Otherwise, just trust us, we'll get there. And this is just you know, our mission that's on the website, and you all know it. I think everybody here has either been to past meetings or I've been talking with, so you know what this is all about. But as I just mentioned, it's kind of evolving, and I'm likely going to be Ken and I will be evolving this text as well, just based on what we've been learning from the past. Just want to show this in presentation mode because I have a really cool transition. So these are some of the meetings, or actually all of the meetings we've been having in the last couple of years. We've had, this is lucky 13 of the actual monthly meetings that we've had. We've had a few breakout meetings on the side and informal things, but as far as what's been on the website, this is it. It's going to go through all of them, but I think I'll bore most of you because some of you have been at a few of these. But just to give you a sense, looking at the second one there back in February, we did talk about the City Print projection mapping kickoff and how it is a collaboration. Talk more about that later. But then going through kind of in rapid fire, we did mapping as a design method, and that was a really interesting discussion just on how, the importance of, you know, floor planning is mapping, site planning is mapping, and really the diagramming involved with that. And kind of this is all going backwards in time. So before that, we did a workshop on diagramming, and that was based on what was before that, a narrative on communication. And that was, I think, one of my favorites because we were just talking about diagramming in general. And we had really a master class done by Jonathan Fournier. He really just gave it a great, so much thought. I really have encouraged him and still do to write a book about it. It was so great. Who was there? Anybody on this call that was at that meeting? No? And feel free to unmute. It's okay. This could be a messy, wild virtual room. It's okay if we talk over each other. We'll sort that out.
Okay.
And prior to that, we talked about Enscape and some of the tools and techniques. And who's used Enscape?
That's right.
Anybody? No? Okay, a couple, few. It's a great tool. It's really a game changer for how we've been able to walk through our BIM models. And prior to that, we talked about another really interesting out-of-the-box thing, oralization, and how you can visualize what you hear. I know that's a strange way of saying it, but as far as what kinds of things inform the design process, what kind of I don't say it's the wrong way, sensorial things, things that are part of our senses. And it was a really intriguing talk about how, in this case, it was a lot of virtual reality visually, but also orally. And then prior to that, we did some New Year planning, just kind of a get together and talk about what we've done and what we want to do. Before that, we hosted a V-Ray day, and we had, I don't know, almost 100 or 100 plus people in a room talking about one specific software. We had them in from Romania, I believe it is, that they're based out of, and a really good deep dive on some of those tools. And then prior to that, we talked about augmented reality and virtual reality. We had some goggles there. We had Microsoft there and some others in construction and design. This is a really quick overview, but to give you a flavor, and that goes all the way back to the second meeting that we had that was talking about tools, and if you only have a few tools, how you approach something with your knowledge of those. And that was a way of saying that if you want to expand your process, you should expand the tools that you use, put more tools in your toolbox sort of thing. And then the very first meeting we had was called the other kickoff because it was done right after the Super Bowl kickoff. So to give you some context, those were all the meetings. Now, some of the things that Ken and I were chatting about before with regard to all these different new digital tools that are out there, because of, well, maybe most of them were out there before, but I think they're really getting a lot of purchase these days because of the need for them in this pandemic. And I love this website. I have the website right on the top there if you want to go to it after and dive around. But I like it because it puts things in different categories and all the different icons of the tools that are used in those categories. And you may see some of the icons are shared between categories if they have more than one use. So, and Ken, what was the one that you showed earlier? What was that called?
Remo?
Remo. So there's
I think it was
one of many, and there may be some other things that you see here. Two of the things we were talking about tonight are virtual whiteboards. So, and they sound very much alike. Ken's going to be talking about Miro, M-I-R-O, and I'm going to be talking a bit about Mural, M-U-R-A-L. Great tools for our office. So really, without much further ado or PowerPoint, we're going to use the tools to talk about the tools. And that means using Miro in this sense to do more of a collaborative session, a roundtable session. So that's it for sharing that. And before, Ken, you start that up, I do want to just show Mural because they're both very similar, but I'm just going to show it just so you have some kind of comparison between the two. And to do that, I have to share something different. So give me a second as I click around. And of course, all these windows pop up where they shouldn't be.
While Mike's doing that, can we get a quick show of hands if everyone knows how to use the or either the reactions or your actual hand? Who's actually used either of these tools? Okay, so this is going to be new for a lot of folks.
I used one before, I think 10 years ago. There was the first whiteboard, was called like Bluescape or something like that. That's the only one I've used.
Okay, great.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm seeing some things that I
I'll
didn't
say
expect
that
to see.
a lot of this stuff is starting to be talked about within education and foundation education as well, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This is that site, by the way, with all those different tools that I mentioned. And I wanted, everybody can see that, can't they? Can they see my browser?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And I just want to show just how easy it is to get to something like Mural, because this is something that's hosted up in the cloud. We have 30 seats in our office. It's fairly expensive. I don't know the numbers top of my head, but if you're curious, I can get them by the end of the meeting. But we feel like we want to really, we've tried a little bit, we want to dive in, we want to use it. But just to show how easy it is to get to, if I just type in Mural from anywhere, and I've already signed in before, and I want to sign in, it just draws my username and password automatically, and then I'm in. And I love that kind of interface. I don't have to remember my path. I don't even have to see the fact that it's auto-filling it in. It just takes me right there. I think it's such a great way of feeling like you're connected to it, which is critical for digital tools, in my opinion. So we have a few things that's set up in rooms. And Ken, maybe when you open up Miro, you can show us if it's something similar, because I'm not sure the exact comparison between the two. But as it's set up into rooms, these are all open to everybody really that has a seat. You could pay for more security if you wanted to. There's of course premiums, but the way we're using it now, we have no secrets from each other with the rooms that we have. We have them set up this way. I don't want to show you any particular information here, but I think at thumbnail level, I'm okay that it's recorded. But if you were to go into something just to show you about what it might look like, of course, it'll probably zoom in. If you zoom into, click on any one of them, it's showing you what is on the board. This is not the most interesting one. excuse me. This is more interesting. This is used quite a bit, and you can see just on thumbnail level just how it's used to manage a lot of precedent studies. Look how quickly it all comes up too. That we're looking at for a design of, can't get into the details, but you see what I mean? Looking at several boards that are changing in dates. So if we're having a discussion here and then having another discussion a week after, we're trying to find some way of kind of revision control and not losing information, but also not creating a whole lot of information that's just going to get in the way. But to be able to group lots of different design strategies, or lots of different, I should say, schemes, these being 3 different schemes of the same building with similar views, so we can move back and forth. And by putting in this move mode, I'm not going to accidentally alter any image on there. But if I take that off, then I could, of course, click one of them and move it somewhere I shouldn't. There we go. And you can also Control Z. But it's always safe to go into move mode and not mess with anybody's board, because it's not mine. But to show you just how easy it is to create something, this is my room. It's kind of, my playroom where I try out some new things. And you just create a blank mural, or you can start with a template. And there's a lot of good templates for what I call either design thinking or team management, design management, where you're kind of doing what we're going to do tonight. Really, just using the tools that are here, like Post-it notes. You simply drag something on there, type in something in the Post-it note, and scale-wise, it's unlimited. You can always stretch it if you want to be bigger or smaller. Its only scale element is when you put something like a virtual Post-it note. It doesn't say that it's 2 inches by 2 inches, but it's something of a scale. Obviously, if I zoom out, you can't see it. Then you can break the rules and just make that Post-it note ginormous. And then all of a sudden you just change the apparent scale of the overall board. But the point is that you can keep adding things. You can start simple and you won't paint yourself into a corner, because you can always stretch that room out, and there are no corners. So a great tool. What more to say about it? Just the fact that you have rooms and you have boards. It really feels like going into a war room or a conference room and having the whiteboards around you, except I think I don't want to say better. There's something great about a physical space, but there's something different about this. And in the new reality post-pandemic, I think we'll be using both and finding how they both work. But Ken, anything before we switch to Miro that you want to test here that's in comparison?
I was trying to find any differences between them, like function wise. I think they overlap a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's probably some kind of UX subtleties that are different. There might be some kind of templates. I'm not sure really what they're using to differentiate themselves at the moment. So I can share Miro, and I'm just going to share a link with everyone for the next for the next phase of this, which is going to be actually using this for a little discussion and work session.
And before I do that, just to show you something, to get a feel for something other than Post-it notes, if I just grab something there from our website that's public, it's easy enough just to copy and paste, and then it comes in and you can scale it up. And the resolution is only limited by whatever you're putting on there. If it's a high-res JPEG, if it's a screenshot like I just did, it's just a fast way to share visual information. We're going to be using these tools in this group going forward too, so we're all going to get a little experience doing it. But yeah, I love it. Our best user, before Ken, you move on to the next thing, I just want to say this: our most enthusiastic user in the office is over 75 years old. So the fact that he just loves this, it's something old, it's new, it's a technology that feels really easy to use. And he's been the biggest proponent to making it work in the office. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and then if you want to fire up Miro and get us to our next part.
Yep.
You know, in between here, I was just wondering, I have a couple of comments, but
Sure.
I was wondering what other people might have to say as we just transition. You know, Tatiana, Vincent, Philippe, does anyone want to add anything to this?
No, I haven't been using it, but it's interesting. I was thinking, does it have like each board, does it have like pages? Can it be like multiple slides, or is it like all lives in one?
I think the intent is that it's not going to take the place of a PDF markup tool, because Bluebeam is great. It does a lot of things that this can do, but this is a different mindset where this is literally a whiteboard, and the things you'll do in a PDF or even InDesign that's page after page, it's meant to put it all up there on the wall, and I think that's the main difference.
Okay.
Mike, it's in the cloud, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You have to pay a lot for a lot of space, or is there a free option?
There is a limited time free option, like a 30-day trial, and then you lose everything. So that's not great. But there's not a free and then add-on kind of things. It's not a freemium type of software. You do have to commit to a baseline of things, because you could just live with that. So that's how that's set up. Does that answer your question, Eric?
Yep, thanks.
I think with Miro, there is a free tier, but I think we moved with that fairly quickly once we started wanting to share boards between people. So I think if you're just using it for personal use, you can, I don't know what the space limits are or anything, but I think there is kind of a free tier on this one. But yeah, I mean, we've been using this across a number of different projects and project types, using it for a lot of kind of visioning exercises, some kind of design or like wireframing exercises and that kind of thing. We don't have rooms in this case, but people are kind of organizing it according to projects. And then we just jump into one of these, kind of like my high risk stuff, jumping into other people's projects. But this one was actually just a test. So, you know, we were kind of playing around with it and kind of seeing, you know, how different people could add sticky notes, other people can comment. So the one feature that we're going to use together in the next part of this session is the ability to comment. So that's this little button here. And so anything that you see, like you can come into this diagram over here, which again is probably just copy paste from this is our incubator space that we're not able to use at Sasaki. And so, you know, anybody can come in here, kind of comment, you know, that's got my name on it. If it wasn't an anonymous user, which is how you'll get to it by that link I just shared, you're not actually required to log in. You can log in, but you can also just enter your name. And so anybody can kind of enter the name. You can give it some basic things like a color coding, and then other people can actually kind of, it becomes like a little mini comment thread. So it's kind of a nice way, very, very simple way to mark things up, especially if you're kind of having a session with kind of a medium-sized group of stakeholders. I don't think you necessarily want to use this in kind of a fully public work session with the comment feature, but you know, it certainly can facilitate the kinds of conversations you would have had before in kind of any kind of public engagement where you'd have kind of a room full of folks kind of going around to kind of different stations and that kind of thing. So yeah, we've definitely found that comment feature can be useful. And then there's, you know, all the same kind of things that Mike was showing. You can have different shapes and connectors, and you know, so for wireframing, I know we've used that a fair amount. You can start adding kind of elements and then connecting those together, and then, you know, it has that kind of feature where those things remain connected. And then you can do some basic drawing if you have like a graphics tablet or something. There's decent quality to the drawing. It's just vector drawing, so it's not like you're working in Photoshop or something. And then
Can I make a quick comment on that, Ken?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we found even as we're using, like, say, Bluebeam and marking things up, or using Zoom, right? And you have a tool to mark things up. I think we've all been caught a little flat-footed because we've been able to do like really good sketches in the office and do like high level, BIM models and things like that. And now we're like all drawing with our mice, and it looks like we've devolved into like crayon holding architects.
Yep.
So I think we'll probably, if this goes on like it is longer, have to start to think about investing in like tablets, like you say, Wacom tablets or touch screens that
we
have
found
pens.
that like these like really small ones,
Yeah.
they're pretty inexpensive, and you can definitely get like pretty good fidelity out of. It's nothing like the big like giant screens, which are really beautiful, but cost like $2,000 that you can kind of draw on the screen, and it feels a lot like you're just drawing on like a desk or something.
How much is that that you have there?
So I think this one was 60. So it's
the one I have is about the same
kind of range. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It may be standard practice soon, like a mouse is.
Yeah. And so, you still use your mouse for most things, but then you can kind of just jump over and start drawing on something. So yeah, another kind of thing that can be helpful is Mira has already started producing a lot of these kinds of templates now. So you can, start mind mapping or something. So you can just go ahead and like add that template to your page, and then it kind of shows you like the basic. So one thing it's actually quite useful for is it also shows you some kind of best practices as kind of a library of like ways of thinking through problems. And, so that's like a little mind map one. This is one which you can use as kind of a retrospective. So after a meeting or something, you can kind of talk about what went well, what needs improvement, next steps, and that kind of thing. And it's all just kind of filled out for you. So a lot of these kind of business processes, they kind of got these templates for, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, so, there's a lot of nice features in terms of kind of automatically producing content. And then the only other thing I might point out is like they do have this concept of frames. And so this kind of helps bridge between this idea of something which is completely free form and kind of laid out, and something where you can actually kind of jump into like a more of a presentation. So it's a little bit like, what is that tool called? Prezi.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of jump between different framings of things. But you can actually use this in a way a lot more like you'd use a PowerPoint or something, where you can actually kind of go through a presentation and do things in a more kind of structured fashion. So that's kind of a nice feature, that it kind of bridges between like thinking linearly or kind of linear storytelling, where you have kind of story you want to tell, and being able to break out of that and kind of go into more of a free form, kind of sketchy or whiteboardy mode at any point. So I think what we like about it is it's not always clear exactly what you can do with it, but you can use it in ways that feels very kind of inventive, and you can kind of use it creatively because it's very kind of open-ended in terms of what it can do. It really does feel like you have like a physical whiteboard or something that you're able to be working out ideas on.
The link that you sent to us, is that a different whiteboard?
Yeah, so the link I sent is this one here. So
look in the chat, everybody.
Yeah, so if everyone can go in the chat, and then what you'll see when you get in there is you'll see a very simplified version of it, which just has a hand, which is the same as what Mike showed before, when you can just kind of pan around. And then that comment feature, which I showed, where you can kind of click on something and then just add a comment. So I'll just give everyone a minute to kind of just get the basic idea of that, and if everyone just can kind of go and add a comment randomly on the page, so we can kind of see that people are getting the hang of it. So we can see that Vincent managed to leave a comment there and say hello. So it may be prompting you to sign in. Obviously, it's trying to drive people to sign up, but you can just ignore those, and you can just enter your name. So while folks are kind of connecting, did anyone else have any questions about the platform itself? Because the next exercise we're going to dive into is actually kind of using this to think kind of big picture about some of the challenges that we've been facing during this time in terms of all these kind of topics listed here. But before I get into that more,
I did just have an idea, Ken. that'll
Yes.
get us engaged in this too.
Beautiful.
If everybody could start, I just made a gigantic pink Post-it note. You see that there? And I can make it smaller so I'm not so obnoxious. But if you were to make a Post-it note and in one word, if you can describe how you're feeling in this COVID crisis, one word.
So if everyone just puts a comment in Mike's.
No, in your own, create your own.
Oh,
you
so
withdraw those permissions.
it's not enabled to create Post-it notes for everyone right now.
Oh, it's not.
People can only comment.
Ken doesn't
Oh.
trust us with the drawing tools.
Where do the comments go on this board?
So you can put them wherever you want on the board.
All right, let me try to do
So,
that.
I
This
figured-
is-
I actually had trouble because I was on the hand and then I had to click the comment icon on the
Yeah.
left.
So you want to make sure that you click on that little comment icon. So basically you click that. It's a simplified toolbar, but you just have the hand and then you have this comment. And then
Is it possible to
you can
give
put a comment
everybody
here.
rights to the Post-it, or is that more difficult? Just to get the hang of it.
So yeah, we could. I don't know if I can share that now. Let me try that. So this is this is what you can do. This can edit I haven't actually used before. It's kind of a beta thing, but we can.
Here we go.
There we go. So does everyone see the full interface now?
It does look different.
Okay. Yeah,
This
so you
is-
should be able to select additional things.
Sticky note on the side.
Who do we have in here? So far we have Peter, Vanessa, Vincent, and Philippe.
Mhm.
So
There it is.
is everyone else able to sign in?
It's sign in or sign up. I'm
You don't have-
going
you shouldn't-
through the
you shouldn't have-
process of-
You shouldn't have to sign up.
Oh.
Let me just. I'll just go through that process for everyone. So I'm just going to quickly start with something that's not signed in. So this is what you should see when you click on it. It should basically just take you to a dialogue that it'll just tell you, that the board is shared. And then you should be able to see everyone moving around.
Yep.
It's taking a second for some reason. And then it's going to tell me here that I can log in or sign up. You shouldn't have to do either of those things. You should actually just be able to start interacting with it.
We have about 9 people there. How many are in our meeting? If you're having trouble, I'm not sure who 4 Beakerful is, but just let us know.
I see myself as a guest. I don't know if you see my name.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see a lot of people in here now. Yeah, we do see you on here. So that's great. I'm just going to
And
sign out
also,
of this
can-
one.
can I
I'm
ask
working on
you-
main one.
Is it connected to Slack? Can you get this tool from a Slack?
So that is one thing. I know they have a lot of different connections. I haven't really investigated those. Like I know they have a lot of connections for like pulling in data from other tools like Airtable, which is kind of like a spreadsheet tool. I know at one point you can pull in things from like a spreadsheet. So one use case of this is when you have a lot of information like that. For example, if you did a survey and then you had like a lot of different comments from that survey, you can pull all of those into stickies and then start to order them and group them and kind of work on them. So that's one kind of use that I've seen of it. Oh, that's great. Vincent's got a timer on there for us.
And
Yes.
Ken, did you
our
expect
Thank
us
you.
all to make such a mess of your beautifully manicured board?
That's why I had comments enabled only. No, this is great. I think.
So is there a backup? Let's say like, I don't know, everything gets deleted and I don't know, you need to go back to notes. Are there any like features like that? That you're aware of?
I I'm not entirely sure what happens with versioning on this. I assume it's a little bit like Google Docs where you can kind of roll back to previous versions and that kind of thing. If somebody came in here and
On a mural, we've asked the question, and
yeah,
with the version that we have, well, to be perfectly honest, I think it's blowing up so much and so many people are using it. The customer service is not as good as expected. I don't blame them for that. I think they'll work it out. But we have that question in too, like, because we want to roll things back. But what we've done is maybe it's a workaround, and maybe it's the only way to do it. But we've created, another
You
board
duplicate each
in the
time.
same room. Yeah.
Yep.
And whether that's copying and pasting everything or just saying, last Tuesday was a totally different group of things. Let's keep it there. Let's work on what's new. So we're finding how best to use this. Of course, we're using, the mindset that comes from PDF markups, but we want to take a step back and say, let's clear our mindset. What's the best way to use this at the same time? One other thing that I want to ask is, and we are making a great mess of this. I love it. You see all the flies flying around, buzzing around here. Ken, if you wanted to show us, if we were all in a room just like we are now, and you want to lead us to something, can we follow you? Do you have that ability on one screen?
I believe so. I think it's there is some way to go into like a presentation mode where everyone follows you, I think, but I'm not entirely sure how to do that.
It's at the bottom left.
This one?
Frames. There's like frame, and right next to it is presentation mode.
Yeah, the presentation mode will take you through the different frames, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But I thought there was a way to kind of have it follow. I think if you click on, I think you have to get other people in this mode. I think you have to get other people to, like, if you click on my icon at the top there, I think that it will then follow me around the board. So I think you have control of it. And it'll kind of go into like a lock mode. Like I'm going to click on Mike's name here. And then, Mike, if you move around,
I'm zooming in on strategic planning and visioning.
So I'm not touching anything right now, and so it's
bring everyone to me. That's awesome.
Oh, there is a bring everyone to me. Where's that?
Well, you click on it and you say bring everyone to me. Like if you click on your on.
Oh, there we go. All right, I just brought everyone to me.
Okay, that's excellent. Yeah, Mural has the same thing, and it's critical because you can imagine like we're doing now. Everybody's scribbling away at a little part of the board.
All right, so now 8 people are following me, and we're looking at the parking lot.
That's excellent. And for those that are watching this in a recording, you're seeing this screen share, but all of us have a separate view. I have 2 screens. So my second screen shows the board that I'm in. I'm in Miro over here, but we're seeing a view of it, or we're seeing Ken's view of it here. So it really is something that you have to participate in to truly get an understanding.
Someone is creating a lot of charts.
Yeah, chart heavy. Beautiful.
Looks great. There we go. It's amazing what a mess we can all make when we play together. Great. So, I mean, I guess we have about 10 minutes left.
Yeah. I think we squandered 10 minutes in playing, but that's okay.
Yeah. I think it's great. That everyone's kind of getting a feel for how this can be used. So, I think we're probably not going to get like through a full exercise here, but just to kind of demonstrate how one might use this for a work session, we can kind of get started on an exercise.
Perfect.
And so the idea here is, and now that everyone can create stickies, basically I just set up this framework here, which is just kind of, thinking about this kind of challenging time in terms of everyone working remotely, not being able to kind of be together, design together, kind of get that energy. What have been some of the challenges related to that? And then, also like what are some of the successes we've seen in terms of, things that have worked well, like using different tools like this. And then, thinking kind of forward, I think, they say never to waste a good crisis. And so in terms of this opening up opportunities going forward, that, I think there's a sense that things are never going to be quite the same again. And so what have we learned from this and what can we use going forward? And And then, you can kind of start to organize that according to categories like knowledge sharing, like, a knowledge community like this, like what's hard to do as a knowledge community, design thinking, like sketching together, like war rooms, like what are some of the challenges, as well as the successes and opportunities around those. The same around kind of public engagement, and then kind of strategic planning and visioning, which I think is a real strength of a tool like this. And then kind of just staying on top of things, project management, task coordination, we're seeing good tools for those kinds of things. And this last one I kind of put here, which I think is a real challenge that we're starting to hear from people, that they feel very disconnected.
Right.
So how do you kind of foster social connections? How do you kind of replicate the water cooler chats? What options are there for the informal sharing that happens in an office when somebody sees something over somebody else's shoulder and says, hey, wait, what's that you're doing? So, if everyone can kind of just look at this framework and just add one or two stickies in terms of things that you thought were challenges. So for example, what if it's been really hard to actually sketch together? So we can't gather and sketch at table anymore. Something like that, so if everyone can add kind of at least one challenge, one thing that was kind of successful. And I kind of added a few things here, which when Mike and I were kind of just brainstorming, thinking about some of the tools for these things that had worked well. And yeah, and then also like, what opportunities are there kind of going forward?
Right. So let's just take a few minutes populating this in silence.
But you can watch what everyone's doing. And if there's other random stuff, that's what the parking lot is for.
Can I just say this is really fun and oddly therapeutic in a weird way. This is
Yeah, it also has an API, so you can probably connect a lot of different connections to this too.
Yeah. And we've only worked a little bit with the API, but yeah, we were able to pull in some data and that kind of thing.
Sorry, I'm going to interject, and also thank you, Vincent, for your timer.
Yes.
I have
Oh,
to,
it was meant to be right on 6 o'clock, so it helps.
Definitely do that in future. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I need to step out to potentially another meeting, but there is, Mike, you mentioned the connection to City Print,
Uh-huh.
and I just wanted to make sure we understood that connection.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So why don't we stop a few minutes before this timer dies, and Philippe
So
can.
a minute and a half left for everyone.
Let's do that. Thanks, Peter. That's why he's so good at communication.
Yep, he's the czar.
Yeah. And I would recommend that we keep this board and do this again, and add to it and make this a. I think after this too, you can vote on things, and you can prioritize things, and you can actually use it to take maybe some of the opportunities, and within this group or within your own offices, be able to make some progress on them. Yeah, in fact, we should talk about the next meeting too. So let's put a stop in 34 seconds. Give ourselves 2 minutes. Okay, I'm going to call it. It is very therapeutic. Absolutely. Because you can work in silence, but you can work collaboratively too. So if I can get everybody's attention, finish up the last word in your sentence or so. So I'll start with our next meeting, and then we'll end, Philippe, on what we're about to break into with CityPrint. So real quickly, and Ken, just let me know if I'm not on track here. But next month, we'll communicate a lot more and a lot better than we did for this meeting. We're going to be diving into virtual reality in a really specific way. It's not general as we've done in the past, but we're going to do a trial. We're not only going to just kind of do it on some cool stuff, but we're doing it with a company that that I think, and I think Ken agrees, is revolutionary, not just in the fact that it is virtual, but in the fact that they're doing some things that I think are going to change the way that we design between software, between Revit and Rhino and all kinds of different things. What it is in a nutshell is designing in virtual reality and being able to form things and stretch things and move and throw and not just that, but doing it in a collaborative environment so that there are avatars in a virtual space creating something. Now I've got a huge, I'm equally excited and interested as I am doubtful. So I think it's a really good thing to dive into. There'll be much more that we can talk about on that in the future. Ken, any quick word on that?
Yeah, no, it's just a really exciting kind of glimpse of the future. I mean, I think it's definitely kind of early days. It feels like in some ways, you know, with the capabilities of VR, we're kind of inventing like how to interact with this whole new way of kind of seeing digitally, right? So there's it's definitely early days. I mean, there's already a lot you can do with their tool, but it definitely feels like a glimpse of the future in terms of like how we're going to be collaborating and kind of thinking together and designing together. So it's really exciting.
So how many, raise your hands physically, how many have a virtual reality device, like a Quest or something like that? Okay, I see 2 hands up. I know Ken does, so we have 3 in this group. All right, so we're going to be asking for this next test who has it. We're going to form a working group, which doesn't mean that you can't be part of it. It just means that you can see the group working and you can't actually be there. The hope is with this company, they're also interested in making a donation to our group so we can purchase some more headsets. Now, probably not hundreds, but you know, we may get 1, 2, or a few more. So if this is something that really we all want to dig into and start to experiment more with, there might be room. We'll have some way of determining who gets to use the headset. We don't want to share them, especially in this current crisis, but we want to make that open to everybody so they can see this kind of exploration happening live. So there'll be much more on that later. And I know Peter's got in the other meeting and he's setting us up and buying some time. But for those that don't know about CityPrint, maybe Philippe, you can say a bit about that and then we can jump over whoever wants to.
Yep. So for those who don't know, City Print is an effort being pushed by the Make Tank Knowledge community, in which we are looking to create a 3D printable digital model of the city based off of the BPDA's model archive. This model, once completed, will be available to the public for free use and download, and is being printed and installed in the BSA space in their lobby. And the model that's printed for the BSA will be updated over time so that it continues to reflect the city as it is. In collaboration with Design Viz, what we're doing is taking this white space of the model, which is just plain PLA white print, and projecting onto it with a projection mapping system so that different groups can come to the BSA and create diagrams that tell stories about the city that can then be displayed onto the map in the lobby. So we're going to be switching over to a meeting now with the different heads of groups focusing on either the hardware or the software aspects of this Design Viz collaboration, just to discuss progress.
Yep. So again, if you're interested, how do they switch over? They need a link to the Zoom, right?
Peter has thrown the
posted
Zoom
the
link
link in chat.
into chat.
You're awesome.
Nice.
And please reach out to me if you would like, or anyone here in leadership, and you will be connected to me eventually.
That's great. Well, then on this Zoom, we're going to close it up for now. We're going to stop recording. I think that's up to you, Ken. Press the button.
Good point. Yep.
And for those that are seeing this recording later, we want you to participate, especially as we continue with this board. Maybe we'll find a way of doing some kind of sessions asynchronously so that we can make this board available for others. So not only can we ourselves learn from this crisis, I love that. Never
waste a crisis.
Never waste a good crisis. I love that. And then, yeah, it might establish what we want to do as a group, and it might even help some others outside the group. So I'm really happy that we're getting together again. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you either in a second or we'll see you next month. Be safe, everybody. Take
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.